Hare नाम संकीर्तन की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। ओम ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकमह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। नमः ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामने गौरत्वसे नमः। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Okay, so we're going to the 10th chapter. Bhagavatam is the answer to all questions. First 9 verses, 10 characteristics of a Puran. Then 10 to 35 is some description of Sarga, creation of the Virat Roop. 36 to 47 Visarga, and 48 to 51 Shauna questions about Vidura Maitreya Samvad. So the most important part of the chapter is the first part, and that is the 10 subject matters of a Puran, Mahapuran, Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devam Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet. Text 1. Shri Shuka Uvacha Atra Sargo Visargascha Sthanam Poshanam Utayah Manvantara Ishna Katha Nirodho Muktirashrayah. Shri Shukdev Goswami said, in the Srimad Bhagavatam there are 10 divisions of statements regarding the following: the creation of the universe, sub-creation, planetary systems, protection by the Lord, the creative impetus, the change of Manus, the science of God, returning home back to Godhead, liberation, and the Samam Bonam. Text 2. Dashamasya Vishuddhyartham Navanam Iha Lakshanam Varnayanti Mahatmana Shrute Narthena Chanjasa. To isolate the transcendence of the Samam Bonam, the symptoms of the rest are described sometimes by Vedic inference, sometimes by indirect explanation, and sometimes by summary explanations given by the great sages. Okay, so the main important purpose for discussing the 10 topics. The 9 topics have been discussed especially to highlight the 10th one. The 9 subject matters are there so that one comes to the point of understanding the 10th one, and that is the Ashray, and that is the Supreme Lord. So to help one understand the 10th one, there are 9. And then the rest of the verses, he describes each one of them one by one. So we have this PPT on the 10 subjects. The credit goes to someone else. It's not mine. Okay. So these are the first 2 verses. This is a summary. So first there's Sarga, primary creation. That is elementary creation of the 16 items of matter. What are the 16 items? क्या? एक जन बोलो ना. No, सिर्फ 5 सुना इधर है. हाँ. कितने हो गए? नहीं, अभी उन्होंने जो बताया है, हाँ वो 20 हो गया है. तो आपने क्या एक्सक्लूड किया? Okay, there is no need of so much speculation. Just read the next verse. भूत मातेन्द्रिय धियाम जन्म सर्ग उदारित ब्रह्मणो गुण वैषम्याद विसर्ग पौरुषु स्मृता. The elementary creation of 16 items of matter. What are the 16 items? 5 elements: fire, water, land, air and sky. Then the tanmatras: sound, form, taste, smell, touch, and the knowledge acquiring sense: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin, and mind is known as sarga. Okay, so no need to speculate. ये भी हो सकता है, वो भी हो सकता है. So this is the 16. So creation of the 16 elements is known as sarga, where a subsequent resultant interaction of the modes of material nature is called as visarga. Okay, we'll come back to it. So visarga is the interaction of the modes. That's creation by Brahma, predominantly creation by Brahma. That's called as visarga. Sthanam, right situation for living entities, that is protection by creation of various planetary systems. Okay, so the Lord creates the various planetary systems, places them in different planetary systems. That is called sthanam. Poshanam is maintenance, that's direct protection for the devotees by the Lord's causeless mercy. Utaya is impetus for activity, that's desire for fruitive work. That's impressions impel the future action. Then Manvantara is the reign of Manus. So there's the description of the 14 Manvantaras. Ishanukata is science of God, many stories of the Lord's pastimes along with devotees. Nirodha is winding up, that's merging of the living entity as Mahavishnu. Mukti is liberation, permanent situation of living entity as servant. And Ashra is the supreme shelter, the cause of other 9 topics, also known as Paramatma and Parabrahman. Okay. Now this has also been compared to the various parts of the transcendental body of the Lord. So there is a correlation between the different cantos and the different topics. We'll discuss about this a little later. Okay, read.
These are the 10 topics of any Mahaprana. Even though all the topics are discussed in all the cantos,
but the prime focus of a theme is primarily discussed in that canto respectively.
Okay, so this is taken from Jiva Goswami. So this comment comes later on in the 12th canto also. So Jiva Goswami says that all topics have been discussed in all the cantos. Okay, all have been discussed in all cantos, but still some topics have been primarily discussed in some cantos, but essentially all have been discussed in all cantos. Okay, go ahead.
Example, Ishanukata comes in other cantos also. Sarga in second canto and other cantos also. But primarily, Sarga is discussed in the third canto, Visarga in fourth canto, and so on.
So primarily it could be discussed in one canto, but then some parts are also discussed in other cantos. Okay.
Great devotees describe the other 9 topics through scriptures and stories to impart the highest knowledge of the 10th topic, Asraya, reference 12.12.66. Ultimate purpose of all the first 9 topics is to glorify the 10th topic, Asraya Tattva or Samam Bhunam.
क्या प्रॉब्लम है?
Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam 12.7.9.20.
नहीं 9 to 10.
9 to 10. In the purport, Srila Jiva Goswami has explained that the 10 principal topics of Srimad Bhagavatam are found within each of the 12 cantos. One should not try to assign each of the 10 topics to a particular canto, nor should the Srimad Bhagavatam be artificially interpreted to above that it deals with the topics successfully. The simple fact is that all aspects of knowledge important to human beings, summarized as the 10 categories mentioned above, are described with various degrees of emphasis and analysis throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam.
Okay, so that's what we were saying. This is basically what Jiva Goswami says, that all the topics have been discussed in all the various cantos. Okay, so now coming to this third verse, we just recited this third verse. What is Sarga and what is Visarga? Okay, so Sarga, Brahmano Guna Vaishamyat. When the Lord glances at Pradhan, which agitates the 3 modes, and then the whole creation starts. That is Sarga. So this has already been discussed in the 5th chapter, right? 5th chapter, Sarga, this has been discussed how Mahavishnu glances Pradhan becomes activated, Mahatattva combines with what? So then there is, okay, it's time which basically agitates the whole thing. And then there's first what is created? After Mahatattva, Ahankar. Yes, so there's Ahankar, then? No, Ahankar combines with 3 modes. The Ahankar combines with 3 modes, and then there are creation of different things. Ahankar combined with Tamogun creates something, then with passion something, and then with goodness something. Okay, so that's basically what is Sarga. So the various elements, then the Tanmatras, Indriyas, the intelligence. So creation of all these things from Pradhan, Mahatattva, etc. That is called as Sarga. It's primarily described in the 3rd canto. Okay, so Sarga has been primarily described in the 3rd canto. So you'll study that in more details. Something has been discussed in the 2nd canto, but in more details you'll find in the 3rd canto. Visarga. Visarga Paurusha Smritaha. Visarga is the creation of the bodies of all the living entities by Brahma and other Prajapatis. So that is the meaning of Visarga, secondary creation. Creation of the bodies. Visarga is described in the 4th canto, primarily the genealogical line of Swayambhu Manu, the progenitor. And it spans from 3rd canto, 2nd half, entire 4th canto, 5th canto till the 15th chapter. So all that is Visarga. Right, but then the others are, that's the subsequent creation which eventually takes place. So here, of course, 16 elements is mentioned, but then along with that, the others are also created. Where is that mentioned? But then the basic fact is that the first thing that is created is ahankar. So without ahankar, the others will not come only. So that means that has to be understood. Because all these things cannot come unless there is ahankar. The first thing is ahankar. Ahankar combines with three modes, then everything follows. These are the main ones, so therefore, I suppose. Yes, Vishnu? Hmm. Correct. Yes. Yes, so the primary creation is done by Mahavishnu, Garbhodaksha Vishnu. They do the primary creation. Yes, so the bodies are given by Brahma. So that's what is saying. Creation of the bodies of all the living entities, that is done by Brahma and the other Prajapatis. We'll come to that. Once again, we'll come to that. But yes, we'll come to that anyways. There is a slide which shows that. So Visarga, so Vishnu Chakravarti says how all kinds of souls can be purified. So for the purification, then they're given different bodies. Karmis are distracted by sense gratification, how sense objects came into existence. Jnanis and yogis attracted to Brahman and Paramatma. So detailed discussion about how the self can meditate on the Supreme. ये क्या है ये? So anyway, I think so. This is something which Vishnu Thakur is writing. I didn't see that actually. Okay, anyway, so let's see something from Prabhupada's purport to the third verse. Something on the light, please. In order to explain the 10 divisional symptoms of the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are 7 continuous verses. The first of these under reference pertains to the 16 elementary manifestations of earth, water, etc., with material ego composed of material intelligence and mind. So Prabhupada is writing, so it's sort of included in Sarga, it is included. Material ego composed of material intelligence and mind. The subsequent creation is a result of the reactions of the above mentioned 16 energies of the first Purusha, Mahavishnu incarnation of Govinda, as later explained by Brahma in his treatise Brahma Samhita. Ya karana nava jale bhajati sma yoga nidra mananta jagadanda saroma kupa Adhara Shaktim Avalambya Param Swamurtim Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. The first Purusha incarnation of Govinda, Lord Krishna, known as the Mahavishnu, goes into Yoga Nidra, mystic sleep, and the innumerable universes are situated in potency in each and every hair hole of his transcendental body. As discussed in the previous verse, Shrutena, or with reference to the Vedic conclusions, the creation is made possible from the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly by manifestation of his particular energies. Without such a Vedic reference, the creation appears to be a product of material nature. This conclusion comes from a poor fund of knowledge. From Vedic reference, it is concluded that the origin of all energies, namely internal, external, and marginal, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And as explained herein before, the illusory conclusion is that creation is made by the inert material nature. The Vedic conclusion is transcendental light, whereas the non-Vedic conclusion is material darkness. The internal potency of the Supreme Lord is identical with the Supreme Lord, and the external potency is enlivened in contact with the internal potency. The parts and parcels of the internal potency which react in contact with the external potency are called the marginal potency of the living entities. Thus, the original creation is directly from the Supreme Personality of God, or Parabrahman, and the secondary creation as a reactionary result of the original ingredients is made by Brahma. Thus, the activities of the whole universe are started. So that is Sarga and Visarga. 3.10.7 purport. Yes. Read.
The seeds
situated. All the planets were already generated by the Lord, and all the living entities were also born in Brahma. The material world and the living entities were all already generated in seedling forms by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Brahma was to disseminate the same seedlings all over the universe. The real creation is therefore called Sarga, and the later on, the manifestation by Brahma is called Visarga.
So, see, even the seeds of all the planets were impregnated in the lotus on which Brahma was situated. So that means universes, the seeds of universes are created by Mahavishnu. Seeds of the planets are also given by, I suppose that's Garbhodaksha Vishnu. And so universes are created by the Lord, planets are also created by the Lord, and as far as jivas are concerned, those are also released by the Lord only. So therefore, material world and living entities were already generated in seedling form by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then Brahma gets the knowledge of how to arrange all the planets and which bodies to give to which living entity. That knowledge also is given by the Lord. Because how Brahma will know the karma of each living entity? Only Paramatma knows, correct? So he only has to give knowledge. So practically everything is done by the Lord only. So only Brahma has to give specific bodies, specific living entities. That is the only job he does. Otherwise, practically everything is created by the Lord. Material elements are created, planets are created, universes are created. Therefore, you have read in the previous chapters, Brahma says, what do? I don't do anything. There's one verse which says, Brahma says, I create after the Lord creates. Correct? So the creation is already done. It's already, practically everything is done. Only some finishing touch is done by Brahma. So just like in the construction of building, so the planning, architecture, everything is already done, correct? Blueprint, everything is already planned, done, everything is done. Then finally it's only some finishing that people do. So similarly, Brahma just does the final thing of giving specific bodies to specific living entities. That's the Visarga. Otherwise, the main part is done by the Lord Himself. Okay. Okay, next verse. 4th. Sthiti Vaikunta Vijaya Poshanam Tad Anugraha Manmantrani Saddharma Utaya Karma Vasanaha. The right situation for the living entities is to obey the laws of the Lord and thus be in perfect peace of mind under the protection of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The manus and the laws are meant to give right direction in life. The impetus for activity is the desire for fruitive work. So, Sthitir Vaikunta Vijaya. This is called Sthanam. So, Sthiti means Sthanam. Sthiti also means protecting or protection. Okay, read this.
How the Lord protects everyone by creating various planetary systems, living places where these living entities can stay and fulfill their propensities. This is also protection actually. This is also shows the excellence of the Lord. For those souls who are adamant in enjoying and not worshipping the Lord protects in the form of sthanam by creating various planetary systems where they can enjoy according to their propensities.
Okay, so because the living entities, they have their material desires. So to fulfill their material desires, the Lord creates all the planetary systems, allows them to take birth there, fulfill their desires. So this is all what the Lord does. This is the protection of the Lord. So He is protecting their desires, and after giving them place in the planetary systems, does it just leave them there? क्या करते भगवान? छोड़ देते वहां पे? हाँ, तो सबके लिए सब कुछ देते हैं ना भगवान. So sthanam is for the general living entities. The difference between sthanam and poshanam is poshanam, the next one, poshanam. Poshanam is specifically for devotees. Sthanam is for all living entities. So the sthanam is the material protection which the Lord offers to all the living entities. So he is giving them a place to stay and is giving them all the facilities, even though they may not be interested in worshipping him, but everything is provided. So that is sthanam. And this is called Vaikunta Vijaya. Vaikunta Vijaya means the victory of the Lord of Vaikunta. So what is the victory here for the Lord? No, this is not about devotees. So what is the victory? Correct. So what is the Vaikunta Vijaya? Right, very good experience. I had just got some definitions for each of these. I don't remember from where I got them, but I'd got some nice points. Lord Vishnu oversees. Okay, you cannot read that, forget it. So, but I'm reading, if you want, you note down. Lord Vishnu oversees the maintenance of the rules and regulations governing universal affairs, and this maintenance is sthiti or sthanam. So for each of these, there are nice definitions. I'm not very sure from where I got them, but I definitely got from authorized source. In some purport or somewhere, I got these. I'm not remembering exactly. No need to make it so complicated. So if you want, you note it down. So here it says Lord Vishnu oversees the maintenance of the rules and regulations governing universal affairs. Correct? So all the universes are created, and then after that, rules and regulations for living entities to follow in the universe. So all that is given. So the Lord oversees all this. Lord Vishnu, he does the maintenance, right? Maintenance is done by Vishnu. So therefore, Lord Vishnu, he does this maintenance. And this maintenance is called as sthiti or sthanam. To carry out this function of sthiti, the Lord incarnates in every millennium. To carry out this function, he comes in every millennium. This is what? Maintenance of rules and regulations. Yes, we are discussing sthanam. So the living entities are sent to the universes. Then the living entities are supposed to follow certain rules and regulations, right, in this world? Just like in the state also, there's some rules and regulations, correct? If one wants to be a good citizen, one has to follow certain rules and regulations. So Lord Vishnu sees that all the rules and regulations are followed by the living entities. So why it is called as Vaikunta Vijaya? Vaikunta Vijaya indicates the supreme glory of the Lord shown by his maintaining all created beings in their respective situation under his laws. So that is his glory, that he is allowing the living entities to fulfill their desires. At the same time, they're fulfilling their desires under his rules and regulations, and that is how they get purified. And that is the benefit of that is given to the living entities. Yes, so yes, basically it's one ashram actually. That's correct. It's basically one ashram. So human society means one ashram. Those are the rules and regulations by which the human beings gradually get elevated. So therefore indicates the supreme glory of Lord shown by his maintaining all created beings in their respective situations under his laws. So therefore ultimately he gets the glory because he is creating all this. Wow. We only wish if Sharad Prabhu could become Bhagavan, it would have been a much better world. So what is the answer to his question? Correct. Yes. So how can Krishna destroy the desires? Then where is independence? अरे इतना सुनने के बाद yeah, he protects them in terms of they are following rules and regulations, and by following rules and regulations they get purified. That is their protection. That is how gradually they make progress. That is the purpose of Varnashram. Now what is the purpose of Varnashram? The purpose is people have their desires according to their propensities, so they are allowed to fulfill those desires, but at the same time offer the fruits of their activities to the Supreme Lord, and that is how they get purified. They make gradual progress. That is the whole purpose of the creation. Okay, then what is Poshanam? The grace of the Lord showered on the pious. That is called as Poshanam. So Poshanam is sustenance. How he maintains his devotees by bestowing his grace on them. That is Poshanam. How he maintains his devotees. This is specifically meant for devotees, Poshanam. How he maintains his devotees by bestowing his grace on them. That is Poshanam. Okay. So anyway, we'll just tell you these definitions first, and then afterwards we'll get into the Bhagavatam. Next is what? After Uti. Where is Uti? Uti. Okay. So Uti is impelled by their karma. Uti is what? Creative impetus. Impelled by their karma, living beings perform various material activities during sthiti or maintenance of the creation. And these activities give rise to various desires and further material activities. These desires in the form of impressions within the mind are called Uti. Clear, no? Impelled by their karma, living beings perform various material activities during sthiti. Right? Sthiti means what? They're situated in various planetary systems. And then, according to the desires, they perform different activities. Correct? And by those activities, these activities give rise to further desires and further material activities. So these desires, they create impressions within the mind. These desires, in the form of impressions within the mind, are called as Uti. These desires in the form of impressions within the mind, vasanas, they're called as Uti. And because of those desires, then they create various activities, then that will give rise to further results. So that is how it takes place. Uti. Next is what? Yes, so the activities are during sthiti, right? Sthiti means what? The planetary systems. They're situated in various planetary systems. When they're situated in various planetary systems, yes, according to the karma, they're going to perform activities. When they perform activities, that results in further desires, further desires, further activities. So these desires, which results in those activities, whether demoniac, divine, correct? So this uti especially is comes in the seventh canto. This seventh canto. So seventh canto predominant topic is what? What is predominant topic? अरे वो predominant कौन क्यों है? Prahlad and Hiranyakashipu, those are the prime characters, na there. So divine, demoniac, divine, demoniac. That is the main thing. So some have material divine desires, some have demoniac desires. And based upon their desires, they create further activities. Based upon their activities, then they get the results of those activities. So this is basically what is uti. Desires in the form of impressions within the mind are called as uti. Okay, next is manvantar. So the activities of each manu along with deeds saintly people perform during the Manu's reign constitute Manvantara. So here it is said, Manvantarani Sadharma. So Sadharma. What is Sadharma? How saintly persons behave and worship is called as Sadharma. Okay, activities of each Manu. So not only the activities of the Manu, along with, yes, deeds the saintly people perform during that Manu's reign, that constitute Manvantara. And how these saintly persons behave and worship, that is called as Sadharma. I have something more here. What is that? Manvantarani, periods of Manu, indicates, so this is a little more elaborate understanding. Periods of Manus indicates histories of Manus and other saintly kings who ruled during the Manu's reigns. Okay, similar thing. So histories of Manus and other saintly kings who ruled during the Manu's reign, and also histories of other saintly people who lived during those periods and received Supreme Lord's special favor. The deeds of these saints are themselves religious standards establishing Sadharma, transcendental religion of worshipping the Lord. Okay, same thing. Okay, next is Ishanukata. So, Ishanukata is the description of the Lord's pastimes with his associates during his incarnations in this material world. That is called as Ishanukata. Description of Lord's pastimes with his associates during his incarnations in this material world. That's called Ishanukata. So here it said, Utaya Karma Vasana. Then in text 5 it says, Avataranu Charitam Hares Chasyanu Vartinam Pumsam Isha Katha Prokta. Isha Katha, signs of God. So that's basically Ishanukata. Next is Nirodha, Mukti and Ashray. So, what is Nirodha? Okay, that's all. Okay, now we'll go back to our PPT. Okay, coming back to Sthanam. So here it said, in the third canto, Kapila explains bhakti in mode of goodness, passion, ignorance. based on this, in the fourth canto, we find the Daksha example, bhakti in the mode of ignorance. Dhruva pastime, bhakti with desires, mode of passion, overcome by Dhruva. So Krishna protects the bhakti even with approaching with desires. Then Prithu Maharaj, Indra pastime, conflict of interest, both are devotees, 100 sacrifice. So you'll never lose by taking shelter of Krishna. Prachin Bharishat, Narada gives Parokshavad stories, indirect, allegorical stories. Canto 5, Bharat Maharaj, Lord protected the memory of the devotional sentiments of Bharat Maharaj. And also Privat Maharaj, Brahma comes, okay, telling him to change the ashram. So anyway, so all this is, that's how the Lord, He puts the living entities in different planetary systems, and then He orchestrates all these pastimes ultimately to purify the living entities. Okay. Poshanam. Poshanam tad anugraha. Special kind of mercy through protection. How the Lord directly protects His devotees. Srila Prabhupada says the higher level of protection is yasyam anugrinami. Okay, so that's protection. So here, this is specifically in the 6th canto. Poshanam comes in the 6th canto. So it begins with Ajamil pastime. The devotee could be in a body of Brahma like Ajamil, demon like Vritrasur, or mixed devotee like Indra, or he could be attached devotee like Chitraketu Maharaj. So all these are devotees, but then the Lord, He orchestrates situations by which ultimately the devotional service is protected. So different levels of devotees, how the Lord protects and elevates these personalities is the focus of the 6th canto. When the Lord detects that this person is inclined to worship me and at the same time he wants to enjoy, then yasyam anugrinami. He takes those things away. We were discussing this yesterday. So that he can perfectly surrender. Lord protected, although they did some mistakes. So described in the 6th canto, there's Diti, Ajamil, Vritrasur, Indra, Chitraketu Maharaj. So that's mostly there in the 6th canto. So all these are devotees, but they committed some mistakes, but then the Lord protected them, protected the devotional service, and ultimately they got reinstated in their constitutional positions. These examples. Of course, like Daksha, Dhruva. Of course, they were not. Dhruva, he initially was not a devotee. He came with material desires, so the mode of passion was there. Daksha is also a devotee, so that's what he's saying. So bhakti in the mode of ignorance is bhakti in the mode of passion. So it's bhakti only, but there's a mix. There's influence of the modes. Similarly, in the case of Indra. And then there's Prachin Bharishat, he was attached to Karma Kand. So the point is that how the Lord, He gives different situations to different living entities. He creates situations for them by which they get purified ultimately. That is the point. So Sthanam is different planetary systems, and also not only planetary systems, He puts them, but then He also creates these different situations for them to get purified. So, and in the 5th canto, we also have cosmology. Correct? Cosmology is also there. The structure of the universe. So that is Sthanam, various planetary systems, who all stay in those different planetary systems, and the prayers they offer. So all that comes in the 5th canto. Ultimately, everything begins from desire, no? That we already discussed. Everything begins with desire. Jiva desires, then the Lord places them in different situations. But then what is the protection? The protection is, or the maintenance. Sthanam is basically maintenance. So the protection or the maintenance, whatever you call, is that the Lord orchestrates situations for the living entities by which they can gradually get purified. That's the point. Mode of goodness में कौन है? So quickly people get attached to short forms. Huh? Okay. So for this Poshanam, one example is given from Prabhupada's life here, Juhu pastime. So we know the pastime from Giraj Maharaj's book. So at a certain point of time, Shyam Sundar Prabhu and Tamal Krishna Maharaj, they got so frustrated. They thought, now Srila Prabhupada has made a totally wrong decision. And so what they did? Yeah, they cancelled the deal. So, Prabhupada already, he was sensing something fishy is happening, something's going to happen. And then he actually sensed, he was in Ahmedabad at that time. He sensed Vishaka Mataji. They didn't take her seriously. And they went ahead with cancelling the deal. And then what happened after that? So, big mistake, correct? Big blunder. How much Prabhupada worked to get the deal. And then these people, within moments, they cancelled it. Cancelling is very, very easy, correct? Doing something takes a lot of time. Destruction is very easy. Cancelling very easy. So they cancelled it. So how did Prabhupada react to that? What? वो ठीक है. How did he deal with these two devotees? हाँ बोलो, वो माइक दे दो उनको, चैतन्य लो.
Hare Krishna. So Prabhuji, in every instance, whenever he meets life members or big this, so he used to bring out the topic and say that these two, is that because of that the deal was
Correct.
done.
So whenever any guest would come, Srila Prabhupada would call Tamal Krishna Maharaj, and then he would tell the guest, see this boy, he cancelled the deal. Very embarrassing situation, correct? So he had to go through it. And of course, not only that, he also had to they had to go to all the courts and the government offices and all that to get the deal back. And so that's how Srila Prabhupada purified them. He didn't reject them. He didn't reject them. He purified them. That's exactly what the Lord does. That is the Lord's Poshanam. That is his Poshanam Tad Anugraha. That is the mercy of the Lord on the devotees. So even though the devotees may make some mistakes and blunders, we were discussing now, Swa Channamridya. He gives Channamrit. And through the Channamrit, what he does? He purifies them. So how he gives Channamrit? That's variety. Varieties of Channamrit. हाँ, वो दूसरा प्रकार का चन्नामृत मिलेगा. So this is the Poshanam. This is how Krishna maintains. So that's how Prabhupada, he purified these devotees. Of course, His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj also tells a similar pastime. Anyone remembers? Ah. So there was one item which Srila Prabhupada had told him to make, and so he had told him to put a lot of chilies, red chilies, and ghee. Mhm. And so Bhaktisharya Maharaj thought this was later years, Prabhupada's health was not good, so he thought so many chilies, it's not good for Prabhupada's health, so he didn't put. And so when the item was brought to Srila Prabhupada, then Srila Prabhupada, Arey, what is this? No chilies? So he said, Srila Prabhupada, I thought it was not good for your health. Prabhupada said, but I told you. So, and then of course Srila Prabhupada explained, so he said that the ghee counteracts the chilies or something like that. So he knew exactly what is to be done. But he was very upset that the item was not prepared according to his instructions. And so he was upset. And then again, Srila Prabhupada followed the same process of purification. Whenever guests would come, Prabhupada would call him and tell him what blunder he did. So that is how the Lord and the pure devotees, they have their different styles of protecting the devotional service of the devotees. This is the Poshanam. Yesterday you were asking a question to Maharaj, right, Sharad Prabhu? You got some similar answer, right? Something regarding chastisement. So then Maharaj was saying that ultimately it is for the benefit of the devotee.
I mean, considering this concept and yesterday's morning class theme, it said that someone usurps the property of Brahmana, he'll have to go to hell and other things. But again, the ISKCON is Prabhupada's property. Someone illegally takes it with various means, but is a devotee chanting. In my understanding, he may not go to hell, right? Means mistakes done by a devotee may not lead to such severe reactions like what is literally given in scriptures. Is it right?
Well, at least as somebody was asking that question, so we were saying at least he won't become a worm in the stool for 60,000 years, because at least a human body is guaranteed. And so usually, yes, hell and lower species, that may not be the case. So, but Krishna has his own ways of purifying. Krishna has his own ways of purifying the devotees. How we will do it, it's all tailor-made for that particular devotee. Krishna knows exactly what's the best.
In specific, does once a person becomes a devotee, will he go to hell in any situations?
Okay,
is
so
it like blank that he will never go to hell? Like, is it?
Well, of course, if you take that verse, which one? Swalpam pesa dharmasya traite mahato bhayat. So mahato bhayat, the great danger of lower planetary systems, lower species, all that seems to be excluded. As Prabhupada says, at least human birth is guaranteed. So hellish planet is excluded, that means, no? Because in hellish planet there's not human birth. So apparently it seems yes. And also yesterday Sharad Prabhu was giving the example of this Prishadra, who was cursed by his guru Vasishtha Muni to become a Shudra and go to the lower planetary systems, correct? No. The curse was to go to lower planetary systems, right? Shudra is definite, but whatever. So, but in any case, so he practiced, so of course, there are other aspects to that story. The first thing is he didn't intentionally do the mistake. That is the most important point. He didn't do intentionally. Yeah, it was totally accidental. And then the other important point is he performed intense devotional service. And so then the intense devotional service then nullified those mistakes and even nullified the curse given by his guru. and he went back to the spiritual world. So ultimately, devotional service is very potent, and definitely things can be nullified. But then, if Krishna wants, then some purification one may have to undergo. Some purification. So, of course, in the case of Prishadra, he voluntarily took up some purificatory processes. He did a lot of tapasya, and a lot of austerities he did. So he did a lot of atonement. So either voluntarily or forced. Yesterday we were reading one purport, no? Yeah, voluntarily or forced tapasya. Either voluntarily one has to do, or one will be forced to do the tapasya and get purified. So
Just on final thing, like because we see many times, like even few days back, one devotee was, so to say, second initiated, but he acted as
so to say, second initiative.
he was doing backup, acting like as if he was doing backup, and then he stole all the silver cutleries of deity paraphernalia.
From where?
From
Here. Here. Yesterday.
It's not few days back. So like we see that a lot of devotees, this is small actually. Sometimes
Oh, it is
devotees,
small, huh?
I mean, like sometimes you'll find devotees justify.
So what they did?
They found out, but something happened. He sold it for 28,000. Means original price must be much higher. Next theory, he did it in Mirror Road. He was there, he was caught. So
then after that?
later on, I don't know the story. Was caught. But thing is that you'll find pretty lot of cases
Well,
come across.
What you said is correct. Actually, this is very small. There are much more bigger things.
Means we see that even sometimes among devotee community, it goes to very grievous things like extramarital, premarital affairs.
No, the
all
reason is
that.
the reason is this only. MOP, MOI.
What is it? So what happens? It means mostly what I had seen. Forget about having regret. There is a justification. Okay, we are practicing devotees. चलता है, कुछ होगा नहीं ऐसे.
कुछ चलता नहीं. चलता है ये नहीं चलता है. So what was the question?
So it seems that devotees are quite confident. This Lord will forgive. Nothing will happen. Means
Yes. Poshanam. This is Poshanam. How the Lord will forgive and how the Lord will purify. That's why all these stories are here. This is the Poshanam. Poshanam tad anugrahat. This is the mercy. So how the Lord will deal with each devotee, only Krishna knows. But one thing is for sure, no one escapes. That is for sure. No one will escape. The Lord will definitely purify. There's no doubt about that. So 1.5.19, you can read the purport later on. But Prabhupada explains there. 1.5.19. So there Prabhupada explains that how when a devotee develops material desires, the Lord inflicts punishment upon him. And that is his mercy. So that's definitely there. So therefore, that's simply illusion. So actually the reason why this Prishadra got spared is because first thing, it was unintentional. Second thing, he repented. He sincerely repented. He took up atonement, purified himself. That's why he went back to the spiritual world. So if somebody is intentionally doing something wrong and instead of repenting justifies, then there's no question. Reaction is must. The Shastra again and again repeats. So many places, example is given that just like the bull is pulled by the farmer with a rope, you know it best, correct? So when the person pulls, what happens? So then what happens? It has to move, correct? He's controlled. He moves according to the direction of the farmer. Why? He gets the pain, right? So then he's forced. That is how Krishna controls all the living entities. This is the example that's given. Brahmaji gives this example to Priyavrata. So when Priyavrata was in that dilemma, whether to get married or not, so Brahmaji came and said, listen, this is not my instruction, this is plan of the Lord, and you better follow. Then he gives this example. And that example is given at many places. So Prabhupada also tells many times, no, one can escape government laws, but nobody can escape Krishna's laws. Nobody can escape. And Krishna's special mercy will come on the devotee. That is this Poshanam. Okay. Uti Utaya Kama Vasana. So Uti means to come up. Utpadan. Uti literally means Shubh, Ashubh Karma. Okay, Shubh, Ashubh Karma. Two diverse things. So Uti means how impressions impel actions. Uti means impetus to do something. So when one performs activities, one accumulates impressions of enjoyment, suffering. These impressions impel future action that one has acquired. Okay, I think so that's quite simple to understand. There are vasanas, impressions, based upon that desires, and then one does. So the example is Hiranyakashipu versus Prahlad. What we should not do and what we should do. So he's saying, I'm neither like the extremes, Hiranyakashipu nor Prahlad. Is there anything between the two? So this whole Varnashram system is based on Uti. Varnashram gives a facility for the living entities to act as Shram. So then they have their specific propensities, desires, and on that basis. But then at the same time they're acting according to scripture. And that's how they get purified. So the whole Varnashram system is identifying this natural tendency for the people to act according to their inclinations. Then it elevates the person, even though acting as per nature. Correct? That's Varnashram. They're acting according to the nature, desires, but at the same time, because they're following scripture, that's how they get purified, elevated. So the 7th canto also describes pure and mixed bhakti. So the last chapters, auspicious inclination, last 5 chapters, they're talking about Varnashram. And inauspicious is the first 10 chapters about Hiranyakashipu. So that's how Uti is being described in the 7th canto. Then Manvantarani Sadharma. Manus are administrators on behalf of Brahma. Conduct of the king's ruling during that Manvantar. Shukadeva Goswami speaks about all the 14 Manus, as Parikshit has the desire to hear about all 14 after hearing about one Manu period from 3rd canto till the 6th canto. From 3rd canto till the 6th canto. So which Manu has been described? Swayambhu Manu. So then there are 6 aspects of a Manvantar period. So there is Manu, Manu Putras, Manvantar Avataras, Saptarishis, Indra, and other Devatas. So this is what changes in every Manvantar. In every Manvantar, all these personalities change. So in the 8th canto, whatever pastimes we read are performed by Manvantar Avataras. Okay. So that's what is there in the 8th canto. Okay, then Ishanukata. So Ishakata means Hare's Avataranu Charitam. Descriptions of Lord's pastimes or characteristics. Asyanu Vartinam Pumsam. Stories about the devotees who follow in the footsteps of the Lord. So that's Ishanukata. That's the same thing what we said. And Nana Akhyani Upabrimitha. Filled with many, many small short stories. So actually, Ishakata is spread in the entire Bhagavatam. Entire Bhagavatam is Ishakata only. Stories about the Supreme Lord. But specifically in the 9th canto, there are so many stories. So you see in 9th canto, many short stories are there. There's Lord Ramchandra pastime, Amrish Maharaj, and so many other stories are there. This is Sun and the Moon dynasties. So all this is there, especially in the 9th canto. So this is Ishanukata. Then Nirodha. Nirodho is Atmana Anu Shayanam. Sleep. Yes. Nirodho asyanu shayanam. So that is dissolution. So why at the end this is discussed by Shukadeva Goswami? So do not fear, Parikshit Maharaj, because death means dismantling the body, which is very insignificant compared to cosmos, dissolution. So one type of dissolution is the body, death. That is one type of dissolution. But then another type of dissolution is at the cosmic level. The entire cosmos, the entire material world is annihilated. So by reading, we get the faith that Lord provided and ultimately withdraws the facility for enjoyment. So that's Prabhupada often quoted, Bhutva Bhutva Praliyate. So ultimately everything is annihilated, enjoyment comes to an end, everything finished. So Nirodha includes dissolution and again creation till they have unfulfilled desires. Then they go to the ninth stage of Mukti. Okay, so as long as the material desires are there, then this creation, dissolution will go on till they actually become mukta. So then there is mukti. So what is mukti? Mukti hitva anyatha rupam swarupena vyavastiti. So anyatha rupam. All the other things have to be given up. Anyatha rupam. So all the other designations, I am this, I am that, all the other designations are only one designation. That is? Yes. Krishnera Nitya Das. So means giving up one's gross and material bodies or giving up identification of all that. Hitva Anyatha Rupam. And establishing oneself in Swarupa as a servant of Krishna. Definition of Mukti as per Srimad. Establishing oneself in his constitutional position as a servant of Krishna. So liberation which takes place, which takes shelter of the Lord's lotus feet is described. Okay, so this is all coming in the 11th canto. Navayogendra, Nimi Samvad, Uddhav Gita, disappearance of Krishna, the Yadu dynasty. So in all this there is Mukti described. And then finally Ashray. So, okay, let's recite the 7th verse. Abhasascha nirodascha yato asti adhyavasisiyate sa ashraya param brahma paramatmeti shabhyate. The Supreme One who is celebrated as the Supreme Being or the Supreme Soul is the Supreme Source of the cosmic manifestation, as well as its reservoir and winding up. Thus, he is the Supreme Fountainhead, the Absolute Truth. Okay, so this is Ashray. From whom arise Sarga, Abhasya, and dissolution, Nirodhas. That is, from first topic to the last topic arises from this one person, Ashraya, who is Bhagwan. Okay, so all those take place because of Bhagwan. So he also sometimes addresses Param Brahma and Paramatma by others. Abhasya, Nirodhasya, Yatosti, Adhyavasiyate, from whom all other 9 topics emanate, or who is the source of all these 9 topics. Other 9 topics are there for the purpose of glorifying the 10th topic. I don't know what is this arose. What? If this 10th topic is not there, then there's no use of other 9 topics. Kurukshetra is important because Krishna was present there and spoke Bhagavad Gita. So in Bhagavatam, creation is described just so that one can appreciate how great the Lord is in performing these pastimes. Okay, so ultimately, all the various other topics are meant for glorifying the Lord. So in Bhagavatam, removing this Bhagwan, no other topic stands. In other scriptures, there are descriptions that are completely disconnected in glorifying Bhagwan. Example, Karmakanda activities, worship of demigods and all that. But in the Bhagavatam, everything is meant ultimately for glorifying Bhagwan, glorifying Bhakti. That is the ultimate purpose of all the topics. So, this is what Srila Prabhupada had originally written. This is taken from the Jaladut diary. So therefore, here Canto 1, Canto 2, he doesn't put any topic under that. So then from third he begins. Sarga, Visarga, Sthanam, Poshnam. What? Yeah, he said it's 10 only. Name. Name of the canto. As far as the topic is concerned, for 10th only Ashray is there. Krishna, the cause of all causes. That's the name of the canto, not the topic. That's like summary, no? So therefore, anyway, so as we already read, all topics are present everywhere. Some specific topics are more prominent in certain. Okay, this is from the preface. Prabhupada writes, the only qualification one needs to study this great book of transcendental knowledge is to proceed step by step cautiously and not jump forward haphazardly as with an ordinary book. It should be gone through chapter by chapter, one after another. The reading matter is so arranged with its original Sanskrit text, its English transliteration, synonyms, translation purports, so it was sure to become a God-realized soul at the end of finishing the first 9 cantos. Only God realized. So if you're satisfied with God realization, that's fine. Is our goal only God realization? Yes, yes. It's a good beginning. Okay, fine. That's the end of this. Now we will go through the remaining verses. Okay, one question. Hmm. Hmm. So you saw that table, no? Some relation is there. Yeah, Jiva Goswami does say that. He does say that. But he also gives some brief, I mean, some understanding he does give. Though so he also says that all topics are there in all cantos, but at the same time, certain topics are prominent in certain cantos. He also accepts that. No, where is that? No, no. He says there's no need to. You'll get. So here he says, one should not try to assign each of the 10 topics to a particular canto. That is what he says. But actually, I have this reference again. I'm not very sure the source, but so that's what. So predominantly the topics are there. So I had got this. Where is that now? This is all some haphazard things here. See, this is what Jiva Goswami actually says. I put a reference here, 2.91, 91, 92. I don't know if it. It's okay. So Jiva Goswami also he assigns cantos to different topics. So this is what I got from maybe CC, I don't know. So somebody can quickly see what is CC Adi, second chapter, 91, 92. Huh? Okay, so there is this commentary there about Jiva Goswami assigning different topics to different cantos. No? Anyway, I got this. So he says Sarga is there in second and third canto, Visarga in second, third, and fourth, Sthanam 3, 7, 8, Poshanam he says all cantos, then Manvantar 4, 8, 9, Ishanukata 4 and 9, Nirodha 11 and 12, Mukti 3 and 11. So this is what he says. So in any case, anyway, it's not so important. Correct. So he doesn't assign one topic to one canto. So he takes one topic and shows in different cantos. So that's what he's doing. All right. ठीक है? So just upon this Vaikuntha Vijaya, if you see the purport to text 4, Prabhupada is explaining, as such it is the duty of all conditioned souls, okay, one sentence before, in the first paragraph, text 4, first paragraph. Therefore, the original creator of the universe is Vishnu, and he is also the maintainer of the created beings by his causeless mercy. As such, it is the duty of all conditioned souls to acknowledge the victory of the Lord and thus become pure devotees and live peacefully in this world where miseries and dangers are always in existence. The conditioned souls who take this material creation are the place for satisfaction of the senses and thus are illusioned with the external energy of Vishnu, remain again to be subjected to the laws of material nature, creation and destruction. So one is supposed to follow the plan of the Lord in this world. When the living entities follow the plan of the Lord, then that is victory for the Lord. When they follow the plan of the Lord, become purified and become pure devotees, so that is victory for the Lord. So that is the purpose of material creation, isn't it? What is the purpose of material creation? Ultimately to get purified. So when the living entities follow the plan of the Lord, get purified, then that is victory for the Lord. Therefore he says Sthiti Vaikuntha Vijaya. All right. So now we are going ahead. 8th verse. So now, in order to establish this Ashray Tattva, so Shukdev Goswami, now he is describing how every other tattva in this world is dependent. Only the Supreme Lord is independent. So to explain that, so he is explaining it very systematically. Okay, 8th verse. Yo adhyatmiko yam purusha sasav evadi devakaha yastatro bhaya vichedha purusho hi adi bhautikaha. The individual person possessing different instruments of senses is called as the adhyatmic person, and the individual controlling deity of the senses is called as Adi Devik. The embodiment seen on the eyeballs is called as the Adi Bhautik person. Okay, I'll just read the next verse translation also. All three of the above mentioned stages of different living entities are interdependent. In the absence of one, another is not understood. But the Supreme Being who sees every one of them as the shelter of the shelter is independent of all, and therefore he is the supreme shelter. Okay. So, very simple thing he is explaining. So, there are three Purushas. What are they? Adhyatmic, this has nothing to do with threefold miseries. Huh? Adhyatmic Purusha, Adi Bhautik Purusha, Adi Devik Purusha. Who is the Adhyatmic Purusha? The spirit soul. Adi Bhautik Purusha, the body. Adi Devik Purusha, demigods. Okay? So now he explains, Srila Prabhupada explains with the help of an example. So if you take, say, one aspect of the body. So if you take the eyes, so as far as soul is concerned, the Adhyatmic Purusha is the soul. So now, the soul, because the soul is present, therefore this eye functions, correct? If the soul is not there, this eye is used. Eye may be there, but without the soul, this eye is useless, correct? Now, soul is there, eye is there, but without sunlight, no use. So, similarly, if sunlight is there, the sun god is the controller for the eye, correct? The sun god controls the eye. So now, sun god is there, soul is there, eye is not there. That is also useless. So that means all three are interdependent. So Shukdev Goswami is trying to prove that everyone in this world is interdependent, except the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, he is the only Ashray Tattva, because he is fully independent. He is not dependent on anybody else. But everyone else in this world is dependent. There is interdependency. That is what he's trying to prove through these verses. I'll just read that specific example Prabhupada is explaining in the purport to text 8. So, there Prabhupada is explaining with this example. For example, in the food controlling department, the controller of food is a person made of the same ingredients as the person who is controlled. Similarly, each and every individual in the material world is controlled by the higher demigods. For example, we have our senses, but the senses are controlled by superior controlling deities. We cannot see without light, and the supreme controller of light is the sun. The sun god is in the sun planet, and we, the individual human beings or any other being on this earth, are all controlled by the sun god as far as our eyes are concerned. Similarly, all the senses we have are controlled by superior demigods, which are also who are also as much living entities as we are. But one is empowered while the other is controlled. The controlled living entity is called as the Adhyatmic Purusha, and the controller is called as the Adi Devik person. All these positions in the material world are due to different fruitive activities, correct? According to various karma, then either one becomes a subordinate soul or one becomes a controller soul. All are Jivatmas only, but somebody is given higher position, somebody is given lower position. On what basis? What basis? Karma, because of different fruitive activities. But all are interdependent. Any individual living being can become the sun god, or even Brahma, or any other god in the upper planetary system by a higher grade of pious work. So every individual living entity is subject to the supreme control of Paramatma, who puts everyone in different positions of the controller and the controlled. So the Supreme Lord, he puts everyone in these different situations, and then everyone becomes interdependent, but it's only the Supreme Lord who's totally independent. The body. So now in the next purport, again Prabhupada explains, text 9 purport. For example, the sun controls the power of our vision. We can see the sun because the sun has its body. And the sunlight is useful only because we have eyes. Without our having eyes, sunlight is useless. And without sunlight, the eyes are useless. Thus they are interdependent, and none of them is independent. Therefore, the natural question arises concerning who made them interdependent? The one who has made such a relationship of interdependence must be ultimately completely independent. And that's what has been stated in the beginning of the Bhagavatam. What? Swarat. The ultimate source of all interdependent objectives is the complete independent subject. This ultimate source of all interdependence is the Supreme Truth or Paramatma, the Super Soul, who is not dependent on anything else. He is Swa Ashraya Ashrayaha. He is only dependent on his self, and thus he is the supreme shelter of everything. So, why Swa Ashraya Ashraya? Why twice it said Ashraya Ashraya? Right. So the demigods are giving shelter, but they are also not independent. The demigods are dependent on Paramatma, but he is also not independent. So ultimately it's only Krishna who is totally independent. He is Swa Ashraya Ashraya. So he is the shelter of those who give shelter. Ultimately only he is fully independent. Okay, to explain this, he is giving this three things. Okay, now from the next verse onwards, he describes Sarga. So you have already discussed in previously, Sarga, how Sarga takes place. So we are not getting into too many details. But basically here in this, okay, let's read a few translations. Okay, begin to read the translations. Text 10. Give the mic here to Pradeep. Or where the mic is. Okay, wherever the mic is, start.
Text.
I think so the mic should come a little ahead, no? Otherwise it's going in the last line only.
After separating the different universes, the gigantic universal form of the Lord Mahavishnu, which came out of the causal ocean, the place of appearance for the first Purusha avatar, entered into each of the separate universes, desiring to lie on the created transcendental water Garbhodaka.
Okay, so you have already read this, correct? So there's Mahavishnu, universes come out of his pores. Then in each universe, who enters? Garbhodaksha Vishnu. Then from Garbhodaksha Vishnu, from his skin, what comes out? Water. Perspiration. So Prabhupada says we can create little perspiration, few ounces. But when Garbhodaksha Vishnu, he perspires, then what happens? Garbhodak ocean, which fills half of the universe. So that is perspiration of Garbhodaksha Vishnu. That is what is being described over here. Now, here Prabhupada is again talking about this interdependence. The Supreme Lord Sri Krishna and all his plenary portions and extensions of the plenary portions are non-different from one another, and thus the supreme independence is in each and every one of them. In order to prove this, Shukdev Goswami has promised to King Parikshit describes herein the independence of the Purusha-avatar personality of Godhead, even in the sphere of the material creation. Such activities of the Lord are also transcendental, and therefore they are also Leela or pastimes of the absolute truth. Such pastimes of the Lord are very conducive to the hearers for self-realization in the field of devotional service. Some may argue, why not then relish the transcendental Leela of the Lord as exhibited in the land of Mathura and Vrindavan, which are sweeter than anything in the world? Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti replies that the pastimes of the Lord in Vrindavan are meant to be relished by advanced devotees of the Lord. Neophyte devotees will misunderstand such supreme transcendental activities of the Lord, and therefore the Lord's pastimes in the material sphere related to creation, maintenance and destruction are verily relishable by the Prakrita or the mundane devotees of the Lord. Further down, Prabhupada is saying, for such mundane creatures, the functions of the body and the functions of the cosmic world through physical laws in relationship with the Lord are also therefore included in understanding of the lawmaker, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the scientists only, they find out different laws, correct? Gravitational laws, then laws of light, laws of sound, huh? Thermodynamics, so many laws. But as Prabhupada is saying, they don't find out the lawmaker. And that's what is. And the scientists explain the material functions by so many technological terms of material laws, but such blind scientists forget the lawmaker. The Srimad Bhagavatam points out the lawmaker. One should not be amazed by the mechanical arrangement of the complicated engine or dynamo, but one should praise the engineer who creates such a wonderful working machine. Okay. And then probably okay. Okay, read the next one. Hare jaldi padho.
Text 11. The Supreme Person is not impersonal and therefore is distinctively a Nara, a person. Therefore, the transcendental water created from the Supreme Nara is known as Nara. And because he lies down on that water, he is known as Narayana.
So therefore he is called Narayan. Okay, continue.
One should definitely know that all material ingredients, activities, time and mode, and the living entities who are meant to enjoy them all exist by his mercy only. And as soon as he does not care for them, everything becomes non-existent.
Yes. Aage.
The Lord, while lying on his bed of mystic slumber, generated the seminal symbol, golden in hue, through external energy out of his desire to manifest varieties of living entities from himself alone.
Just hear from me how the potency of his lordship divides one into three, called the controlling entities, the controlled entities and the material bodies, in the manner mentioned above.
From the sky situated within the transcendental body of the manifested Mahavishnu, sensory energy, mental force, and bodily strength are all generated, as well as the sum total of the fountainhead of the total living force.
See, all this will be described in details in the third canto. So we are not getting into all this. There's one point which comes in the next verse. Okay, go ahead.
As the followers of a king follow their lord, similarly when the total energy is in motion, all other living entities move. And when the total energy stops endeavoring, all other living entities stop sensual activities.
Okay, read the purport of that.
The individual living entities are completely dependent on the total energy of the Supreme Purusha. No one has independent existence, just as no electric lamp has independent effulgence. Each and every electrical instrument depends fully on the total powerhouse. The total powerhouse depends on the reservoir of water for generating electricity. Water depends on the clouds depends on the sun depends on creation, and the creation depends on the movement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the cause of all causes.
Yes. So what he's saying is, when the king moves, then everything else moves. Similarly, when the Lord moves, everything else moves. And to establish this, now he is describing how the creation of the Virat Purush takes place. So, okay, read the 17th one.
The living force, being agitated by the Virat Purusha, generated hunger and thirst, and when he desired to drink and eat, the mouth opened.
Okay, one more you read.
From the mouth the palate became manifested, and thereupon the tongue was also generated. After this all the different tastes came into existence, so that the tongue can release them.
Okay, so here he is describing how the Virat Purush came into existence. So there is a particular sequence. So the first thing is, there is a desire by the Virat Purush. So when he desired to drink and eat, who desired? The Virat Purush. So when he desired to drink and eat, so then the organ is created. What happened? The mouth opened. The mouth was created. Mouth, the palate, the tongue, so all that was created. Then when after this creation, then somebody has to control this sense, correct? The sensory organ, there has to be someone to supervise, control. If there's nobody to control, what will happen? So just like this temple is there, you create the temple or you create an office. You create an office, the first thing what you have to find out? Who will manage it? If you don't have somebody to manage, what will happen? Huh? Chaos. Correct? So same thing. So the Lord desired, then the facility to fulfill the desire, the sense organ is created. Then the immediate next thing is the sensory devata. The devata to control that particular sense organ is created. So that is how the creation of the Virat Purush takes place. And after that, and because the Virat Purush has all these organs, therefore the living entities also get their organs. So that is how, so Prabhupada also says many times, because sees, then I can see. How Krishna sees? Yes, the sun is the eye of the Lord. So when Krishna sees, that means when the sun rises, then I can see. If there is no sun, what can I do? I can't see. So that is the principle that is being explained in these verses. So first the Lord desires. So when the Lord desires, then his sense organs are created. Then the sense devatas are created. And then the living entities get their organs. So that is how, that is why Prabhupada is describing in this purport, in the 16th verse purport, no one has independent existence. And then he's giving all that example. No one has independent existence. Ultimately, everyone is dependent on the Lord. Because the Lord sees, I see. Because the Lord eats, therefore I am able to eat. Yes, Virat Purush. As far as the material creation is concerned. For the material creation is the Virat Purush who is doing all these things. So that is the principle of all these verses. So just like text 19, when the Supreme desired to speak, speeches were vibrated from the mouth. Then the controlling deity fire was generated from the mouth. But even when he was lying in the water, all these functions remain suspended. So therefore, in this purport, Prabhupada writes, the senses are, so to speak, offering a license for the conditioned souls who are to use them properly under the control of the controlling deity deputed by the Supreme Lord. This is 19. So the senses have been given by the Supreme Lord. For what? To use them in the Lord's service. So if the hands are used for stealing something, then what's happening? Punishment. They are not being used for the purpose for which they have been given. Then what is the result of that? Prabhupada is writing. One who violates such controlling regulations has to be punished by degradation to a lower status of life. For example, the tongue and its controlling deity Varuna. The tongue is meant for eating, and men, animals and birds each have their different tastes because of different licenses. And then he's explained how the taste of human beings and that of the swine are not on the same level. So if the human being develops taste without discrimination, as does the swine, then the controlling deity is certainly certified for the next term to award him the body of a swine. And then further down, Prabhupada says, such a life is also God's grace. So that is, now you are understanding that sthiti. Sthiti. Sthanam or sthiti. So that is Lord's grace. So because the living entity desired, therefore he gets a particular body in a particular planet so that he can fulfill those desires. That is the Lord's grace. because the conditioned soul desired a body like that. And therefore the last statement is important statement. An irresponsible life of indiscrimination is risky. And that is the declaration of all scriptures. What? An irresponsible life of indiscrimination is risky. So if we think we can do anything without discrimination, irresponsibility, what is the result? Big risk. Punishment is certain. Okay. Similarly, the 20th verse. Thereafter, when the Supreme Purusha desired to smell odors, nostrils and respiration were generated. The nasal instrument odors came into existence. And after the controlling deity of air carrying smell also became manifested. Okay, so that's how. So the senses are created, the sense devata is created, then the tanmatra is created. So all these are created in sequence. Here again, Prabhupada writes some important statements. The living entity can see only when the Lord sees. The living entity can smell when the Lord smells, and so on. The idea is that the living entity cannot do anything independently. So you see the whole discussion here is what? That Ashray Tattva. Only the Ashray Tattva is independent. All others are dependent. That is being what explained. Of course, Sarga is also being explained, but that is the main Tattva that is being explained. The idea is that living entity cannot do anything independently. He can simply think of doing something independently, but he cannot act independently. He can think of doing something. So somebody can think, I want Rasgulla now. Okay, good. Thinking is good. But then, can he get it immediately? No. For that, he is dependent on so many people, correct? One has to find the right people. But he cannot act independently. This independence in thinking is there by the grace of the Lord. That independence in thinking also is not independent. That is also by the grace of the Lord. But the thinking can be given shape by the grace of the Lord. Where is independence then? Thinking is also by grace of Lord, and the thinking can be given shape also by the grace of the Lord. And therefore the common saying is, man proposes, God disposes. The whole explanation, so this is the why this entire thing is being discussed. This is what the whole explanation is on the subject of the absolute dependence of the living entities and the absolute independence of the Supreme Lord. That is the purpose of this entire discussion. What? The absolute dependence of the living entities and the absolute independence of the Supreme Lord. This is the theme of this entire discussion. Okay, and that is how then all the further verses go for the different senses. So we are not reading all that. So this goes on. So this entire section goes on till wait, just one second. Let's go to those sections. Okay, it goes till 35. And 36 to 47 is Visarga. Right. So you can see in these verses 37 to 40, there is a whole big list. Know from me that all living entities are created by the Supreme Lord according to their past deeds. This includes Brahma and his sons like Daksha. So all these are, so the living entities have been created by the Supreme Lord himself. So in the purport, Prabhupada says, the varieties of living entities are mentioned in this list, and with no exception, from the topmost planet down to the lowest planet of the universe, all of them in different species of life are created by the Almighty Father Vishnu. Therefore, no one is independent of the Supreme Personality. So you see, Prabhupada keeps repeating that point about dependence and independence. That is the main focus of the entire thing. So all the living entities are dependent on the Supreme Lord. So then we know this famous Sarvayonishu Kaunteya Murteya Sambhavantiya Tasam Brahma Mahadyonir Aham Bija Prada Pita. So therefore he says, without the father's seed, no mother can give birth to a child. And then Prabhupada explains that ultimately all bodies, superior, inferior, they're all like first class, second class, third class prison. What is the use? Trying to simply change from third class prison to first class prison. So therefore Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, one should try to be free from prison life and go back home, back to Godhead. That is the real goal for all types of living entities. The bodies. Yes. Yes, so that's what Prabhupada is writing. The living entities. The living entities are given by the Supreme. No. Correct. That's what he's saying. See, now he said, know that all living entities are created by the Supreme Lord according to their past deeds. So the living entities. Bija. And then after that, text 42, he, the personality of God, is the maintainer of all in the universe, appears in different incarnations after establishing the creation. So he creates all these living entities, and according to the three modes, and the previous verse you can see, 41. Then according to three modes, they get the different bodies and all that. And then text 42, so this is all sthanam. He, the personality of Godhead, is the maintainer of all in the universe, appears in different incarnations after establishing the creation. And thus he reclaims all kinds of conditioned souls amongst the humans, non-humans, demigods. So the Lord incarnates so that people become attracted to him, and that's how he reclaims them. And then text 43, thereafter the end of the millennium, the Lord himself in the form of Rudra, the destroyer, will annihilate the complete creation as the wind displaces the clouds. So text 44, the great transcendentalists thus describe the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but the pure devotees deserve to see more glorious things in transcendence beyond these features. So as Prabhupada writes, he is more than a simple creator and destroyer. For there is this feature of Ananda, or his pleasure feature. This pleasure feature of the Lord is understood by the pure devotees only and not by others. So those are the specific pastimes the Lord does in relationship with his devotees. Okay, text 46. This process of creation and annihilation described in summary herein is the regulative principle during the duration of Brahma's one day. It is also the regulative principle in the creation of Mahat, in which the material nature is dispersed. So here three things have been described: Mahakalpa, Vikalpa, and Kalpa. The creation by the Lord in his feature of Kanodaksha Vishnu are called Mahakalpa. The creation of Brahma and dispersion of the material ingredients are called Vikalpa. The creation of Brahma. So Brahma is created from Garbhodaksha Vishnu. So the creation of Brahma is called Vikalpa. And creation by Brahma, that is called Kalpa. Creation of Mahavishnu is Mahakalpa. Creation of Brahma, that means from Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, that is called Vikalpa. And creation by Brahma, that means giving all the bodies to the living entities and placing them in different planetary systems, that is called Kalpa. And then there are 30 kalpas of Brahma. 30 days in a month, 30 kalpas of Brahma. All the names are given in that purport. Okay, now we are coming to text 48. So Shaunak Rishi, after hearing all about the creation, inquired from Sutta Goswami about Vidura. So after hearing all this very deep philosophy, how many chapters all this creation, all this philosophy has been going on? It has been going on since 4th chapter, correct? Even in the first chapter there was Virat Roop and all that. So long, so many chapters, so many verses, Shaunakadi Rishi have been hearing all these technical stuff. And like most of you also may have been tired. So Shaunakadi Rishi also got tired. So therefore now Shaunak Rishi asks, you spoke about Vidura, no, that time? Where he spoke about Vidura? When Vidura he left home. In the 13th chapter, though, he comes back. So there is a mention where exactly? Okay, so anyway, so there was a description of Vidura somewhere in the first canto. So the sages thought, Arey, what happened to Vidura? Somewhere it was left in between. So okay, even I forgot actually. So Vidura, after Dhritarashtra he leaves, then no, Vidura is thrown out of the palace and then he goes for Tirtha Yatra, correct? That was before that. Okay, in any case, so somehow these sages, they remember something about Vidura, something incomplete was there about Vidura. And so therefore, for Sutta Goswami had previously informed him how Vidura left home, leaving aside all his relatives who were very difficult to leave. So that happened after Duryodhana insulted him and then he leaves. So anyway, so the sages remembered that. And so therefore, 4950, Shaunak Rishi said, let us know please what topics were discussed between Vidura and Maitreya, who talked on transcendental subjects, and what was inquired by Vidura and replied by Maitreya. Also, please let us know the reason for Vidura's giving up the connection of his family members and why he again came home. Please also let us know the activities of Vidura while he was in the place of pilgrimage. So Prabhupada writes, Srila Sutta Goswami was narrating the topics of creation and destruction of the material world, but it appears that the rishis headed by Shaunaka were more inclined to hear of transcendental subjects, which are on a higher level than the physical. So Prabhupada says there are two classes of men, those two addicted to the gross body and the material world, and others on the higher level who are interested more in transcendental knowledge. Srimad Bhagavatam gives facility to everyone, both to the materialist and to the transcendentalist. And then Prabhupada gives a nice example further down. So he says, the materialists are more interested in physical laws and how they are acting, and they see wonders in those physical glamours. Sometimes due to the physical glamours, they find glories of the Lord. They should know definitely that physical activities and the wonders are all initiated by the Lord. The rose in the garden gradually takes its shape and color to become beautiful and sweet, not by a blind physical law, although it appears like that. Behind that physical law is the direction of the complete consciousness of the Supreme Lord. Otherwise, things cannot take shape so systematically. The artist draws a picture of a rose very nicely with all attention and artistic sense, and yet it does not become as perfect as the real rose. If that is the real fact, how can we say that the real rose has taken its shape without intelligence behind the beauty? This sort of conclusion is to poor fund of knowledge. So therefore, one must know the actual painter. So at the end of the Prabhupada Prabhupada says, one has to prove in the physical world that he has such supreme consciousness. The rishis of Naimisharanya, however, were above the gross materialists and the false transcendentalists, and thus they were always anxious to know the real truth in transcendental matters as discussed by authorities. Text 51, Sri Sutta Goswami explained, I shall now explain to you the very subjects explained by the great sage in answer to King Parikshit's inquiries. Please hear them attentively. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the second canto, 10th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Bhagavatam is the answer to all questions. End of the second canto. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Samved Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you very much. So tomorrow we are beginning the third canto. And the first 4 chapters are all filled with beautiful pastimes of the Lord for a good change. But one should always remember that that is also Leela, this is also Leela only. Aditya Ram Prabhu, Advait Karuna Prabhu, Akshobhya Prabhu, Ananta Narsimha Prabhu. Where's Narsimha?